let me down easy. For your love for me is gone. Let me down easy. Since you feel to stay here alone, I know it's all over, but the last goodbye. Oh, let me down easy. Let me down easy. Let me down easy. Let me down easy. Let me down easy.
And yes, it's me, Mr. Bucketlist, here, back for the last time. Now, before I get into the check-in, before I get to the line, before I get into the ship, I do have a news flash. Folks, this is the best cruise I've ever been on, and I have zero complaints. Nope, that's not a joke. Nope, I'm not getting paid. For those who are familiar with my channel, they already know. When I make a bold statement like that, I'm going to back it up. For anybody that's new to the channel, welcome to my experience. Now, like usual, yes, I did purchase the key on this cruise. Ironically, it was actually cheaper than the standard internet package, and it includes the premium internet package. And the reason why it was so cheap was I actually bought it during Black Friday. So I got a really good deal on it. I had the full 8 day of the cruise. It was amazing. And then, of course, the benefits are you get priority boarding inside the terminal. Now, I was running a little bit late to the terminal, so when I got there, people were already getting on board. And so, thankfully, because I had the key, I never sat down. I never stopped moving. I just kept walking. So that started off my cruise pretty amazing. Now, as you all know, on each and every one of my cruises, I always strive to be the first person on the pool deck and get one of the first drinks on the pool deck. But being that I was running late to this cruise, I said, you know what, it's probably not going to happen this time around. But I dragged myself up those steps anyway, just to see what would happen. And guess what? I was still the first person on this deck. Folks, I don't know what happened. I don't know where everybody was at. Well, actually, I do. They were in the buffet with their pants unbuttoned. But either way, I was still the first person on this pool deck. It just instantly put me in a great mood. I ran and got a drink real fast from the lime and coconut bar. I went and took my selfie for my thumbnail for the trailer. If you all probably recognize, this is when I took it. It would just put me in such a great mood, y'all. After taking my first couple of selfies and finishing my first drink and seeing people finally coming up to the pool deck, it was actually time for me to have lunch. And so, like I said earlier, I did have the key on this cruise. And so thankfully I had the key lunch, which is provided by the Chopped Grill menu. Now, even though I've had the key on 4 out of 5 of my Royal Caribbean cruises, and things may seem similar, the entire goal of my cruise was to just kind of do things differently. key whenever and however I could. So for example, as you all know, the key does come with that lunch, like I just mentioned. The lunch menu is very limited, as you all can see, but I usually just get a filet mignon and I just call it a day. This time around I said no. So I did go ahead and get some similar sides. I mean, the shrimp, which is always really good. And they had these little mac and cheese and mashed potatoes. Those were okay as well. But this time around I did try this Angus burger. Now, was it the best burger on the ship? Well, not really. And were the fries amazing? No, because I don't like sweet potato fries. And the piece of bacon was laughable. But either way, it was just different. And it actually made me enjoy it more because it wasn't that same old familiar taste that I always have. Now, what was amazing was this molten lava cake. Oh my god. This is one of my favorite desserts ever on Royal Caribbean. This was not getting changed. I actually asked for a second one. They gave me a second one. Great job on this, Royal Caribbean. Now, after that delicious meal from the Chops menu, it was finally time to check out my cabin. Now, this is honestly the main reason why I booked this cruise. And so Odyssey of the Seas is one of the few cruise ships that has solo balcony cabins. So basically a solo room that also has a balcony attached to it as well. Now, before I booked this cruise, I will be honest, I had no idea these type of cabins existed. And so I happened to be on the Royal Caribbean website and just kind of pricing things out for solo travelers. And this cruise came out to be really cheap. And I was like, why is it so cheap for an 8-night cruise? And then once I realized I wasn't getting charged for a second person as a solo traveler because it was a solo room, it just kind of blew my mind. And then stepping into this room just really blew my mind because it literally was the perfect room for 1 or 2 people. I'll get to that later, but at least for one person, it is perfect. For 2, if you want to have some, it works out, is what I'm trying to say. Y'all, I love this room. Oh my goodness. I mean, of course, this is a newer ship. So, I mean, it had plenty of outlets. The bed was huge. It was comfortable. It had all this different type of cubby and storage space. But the main thing that made it so amazing was the balcony. This balcony was actually bigger than the balcony I just had on NCL Joy. And that was a room for 2 people. I think actually 3 people. And this balcony was literally almost twice the size of it. It was huge. And it had a nice privacy. Oh, this room was amazing. And look at this, even Royal knows it's comfortable for 2 people. Now, after gushing about my room for about 20 to 30 minutes, I said, you know what, let me go ahead and take some laps around the ship, get familiar with the ship, at least my first initial walk around. Now, I had been on the Quantum class ship before, Quantum of the Seas. This one's a little bit different. This is a Quantum Plus class, and it's a newer ship, so of course things are going to be different. But either way, they were very similar, but I do like how Odyssey just laid things out. It just felt much better, less crowded, just all around just a better ship altogether. Now, once I got back on the pool deck, the one thing I did notice was the weather had changed dramatically, and it looked like it was about to storm like crazy. And so for me, I mean, I live in Florida, I'm used to it, it is what it is. But the one thing I was concerned about was, how was this going to affect the sail away? Long story short, it didn't. Hashtag Florida. But in all seriousness, I was happy that the weather cleared up. And the main reason why is I always, for some reason, miss out on the pool deck parties on Royal Caribbean. Every other cruise I can find it, but on Royal Caribbean I always end up missing it for some reason. And I'm sure the Carnival people are going to come in here and laugh at me and say, oh, because Royal Caribbean doesn't have... Look, y'all, I'll be on Carnival in September. Calm down, please. But this time around, they actually did have a sail away party, and it was actually pretty good.
Sail away party! If you want to join us and have some moves, come here to the splash away from off the pool deck.
Boy, I tell you, the creators of those 3 songs, the Cha-Cha Slide, the Cupid Shuffle, and the Wobble must have Jeff Bezos money, because I promise you all, every single public event post when I graduated middle school has played those songs. It's not a joke. And now it's finally time to sail away. Now, when it comes to the port in Fort Lauderdale, so I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with it. Getting into the port and parking all that stuff is pretty easy, but when it comes to sailing out the port, there's not really much to see. And so, I mean, here it is right here. When it came to our particular sailing, the only thing that was kind of worth mentioning is seeing this guy getting pulled over in this boat. So there was like some jet skis and stuff like circling our boat. It was just acting really weird. And so finally a Coast Guard had enough and did a U-turn on him. So that was pretty cool. But outside of that, it was just a nice standard sail away. After the sail away, it was finally time to get dinner. Now during this cruise, I also had a dinner package as well, so I was able to try out some specialty restaurants, but I also wanted to try out the MDR because around this time period, the new refresh menu had just came out, and of course I also wanted to try the buffet as well. So I had a lot of different food options. I wanted to make it even and fresh for this video, and so initially my goal was to almost try as much as I could, so basically the buffet and the MDR each and every night. That didn't make it past day 3 for other reasons outside of me just being full. But I did at least walk up there for day 1. They had what they called American night. I just call it fried food night. That's pretty much all they had. But it was American night. The food was actually not the best, so I really didn't eat much. But then I did go down to the MDR, to the main dining room, and I did go ahead and try out the new menu as well. Now, the one thing that did kind of shock me when I got down to the main dining room is this line. I mean, look at it. The good news is the line actually moved pretty fast. That was just almost a rush area, and it actually moved quicker for people like myself who had reservations, so no complaints there. And then as far as the main dining room itself, it was beautiful. It spans about 3 different levels, nice and clean, nice and high-tech looking, amazing, and also customer service as well, amazing, always the royal standard. Now, as far as dinner goes, so I am a huge prime rib fan, so this is one of the few meals that's going to look similar to what I usually get, this and lobster night. But either way, the food was good. It was a lot better than the food I had on Quantum of the Seas. Very good, very tasty, and it came out really quick. Now, after that amazing meal, it was finally time to try out my first reserved show of the cruise. It's called The Book. So this is one of the few Royal Caribbean shows that I really didn't know much about. I didn't look up any pictures, I didn't look at any videos, the description, I mean anything. The only thing I really did see were there was a couple of Facebook posts where people either loved it or they hated it, but the general consensus was go ahead and book it and see it for yourself, and so I reserved it. Now when it comes to me and the way I look at cruise ship shows, I'm not too hard to please. As long as the show has good music and good acts, that's all I really care for. I don't really get nitpicky. Unless the performance is done on Virgin Voyage's Scarlet Lady, you know, the same cruise line that likes to give out accidental copyright strikes to your YouTube channel when you put in a clip of their shows and say it was an accident, even though you can find that same clip by 1,000 other people on TikTok and YouTube, then yeah, that's when I get picky. But hey, back to the book. The good thing is, because I had the key, that always reserves the best seating in the house, along with the VIP guests, the star guests, Pinnacle, and the key as well. And so, ironically, they actually had us go up to the 2nd level, and we're right in the middle. So I figured, I'm like, hey, if we're in the middle at the 2nd level, obviously there's a little bit more to the show that we don't really know about. And y'all, the show started off kind of weird, but it got better, better, and better, so eventually it just ended up being amazing. Check it out.
Oh.
'cause I was never in love.
Welcome back to one of my favorite days on any cruise. Get to know the ship day. And like usual, as you all can see, this ship is beautiful. So I don't know, it's just something about this ship. So personally, I love Oasis class ships. The bigger the better. I do so much, so I need a lot of stuff to keep me going. But this ship, I don't know, it's something about it where it felt right. Like it didn't feel like it was small, it didn't feel like it was too big. Like it had those small intimate areas, but at the same time, it was so much going on, so many different spots. Royal Caribbean knocked it out the park with this cruise ship. And not only that, but the technology inside. The Quantum class and the Quantum Plus class ships are known for having the best technology at sea on their ships, and this is no different. Now, while I'm giving you all a quick tour of this cruise ship, I actually want to do something different for this day, being that this is my last solo cruise documentary. I want to give a shout out and I want to give back to the solo cruisers that have supported me over the years and got me to this 10th solo documentary. And I also want to answer some questions. Now, when it comes to solo traveling, there are so many reasons why a person may decide to solo travel. But at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want our life to move forward. It's just that simple. Now, let's use myself for example. There are a variety of reasons why I initially started solo cruising. My first cruise I went on, period, was with one of my college friends, and that cruise was a disaster. And so I was traumatized from that, so I said I'll wait for a little bit. So I waited a couple years. And then there was a woman I was dating at the time period, and I asked her, I said, hey, what do you think about going on the cruise? And it sounds pretty cool, and I didn't have the best experience with my friend, but what do you think about it? And her response was, well, my mom hates cruises, she hates being on water and stuff like that. And I was like, well, your mom lives in a different state from us, about halfway across the country. What does she have to do with this? Wherever my mom goes, I go. And so that just kind of put an X on that. And so, I mean, between that and I was like, you know what, like, I just need to just stop waiting on people, just do it on my own. And so that's what I did. And the honest truth is, once I got a real taste of solo travel and the freedom that it brings, I never wanted to go back. I can't tell you how many relationships I've been in where getting dinner is like a 2-hour process because it's like a game of questions, like, oh, you want to go here, you want to go there. Man, it's just like, I mean, I've never dealt with that on the cruise ship. Even though I've had my ship girlfriends, I wish they would pull that nonsense. I'd be out of there so fast, y'all. And it's just, I mean, having that freedom on cruise ships, it's just nothing like it. And so that's the one thing I do implore for both men and women is when you go on a cruise ship, if you go on a solo cruise, understand your time is yours and yours alone. You can decide what you do with it. And that's how I've made it to my 10th solo cruise. Now, for those who have been watching my channel for a while and following my journey, I'm sure you're wondering, well, if you love solo cruising so much, why is it coming to an end? Well, we'll get to that. But right now, let's get to this meal inside of Giovanni's kitchen. I was so excited for this.
Baby, please don't eat me up. Eat me up. Eat me up. Baby, please don't eat me.
Now, when it comes to the experience, some people may see this as a complaint, but honestly, it was just kind of weird. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So I get to Giovanni's kitchen, I have my camera out, they understand I'm a YouTuber, and so they say, hey, Mr. Bucketlist, all this and that, and we're going to make your experience amazing. I'm like, yes, this is what I want. And so everything was going smooth. The restaurant was beautiful. I was one of the first people in there, so it was nice and empty. The menu looked amazing. Oh my God, there was so much on there. And so, as you all know, I usually like to do, I try to get as much as I can to show off for my reviews. Now, I don't go overload and order everything on the menu, but I get enough that I know I can actually eat a good variety of foods. And then, like I said, I show it off in a review. So anyone that's curious about these restaurants, they actually know what the food looks like and what my opinion is. Like most other YouTubers, we review the restaurants. So I let my waiter know, and this is no dick to that guy whatsoever. The guy was great. He was amazing. But I let him know, like, hey, I want to order a variety of foods. Can I get smaller size portions so I don't waste food, but I can also show my YouTube audience exactly what the meal's like? He's like, oh, yeah, no problem. And so I start going down the list, and then he just starts sweating. I'm like, whoa, am I ordering too much? Like, what's going on? And he just kind of, I can tell something was up. So I was like, let me go ahead and stop because I'm making him uncomfortable and it's making me uncomfortable. And so he goes away, and then he comes back, and he's like, you sure you want to get this food? I'm like, yes, I'm sure. Like, When I went to Jamie's Italian Kitchen on Quantum, there was no issue and I ate everything. But on here, just seemed to be an issue. So I understand times are a little bit different now. That was still after the pandemic, but still, it was just really weird. And so I didn't really mind, but then out of nowhere, this guy comes up, and I can tell he's a manager because he has like a little captain's uniform on. And the first thing he asked me is, "Are you recording? Can you stop recording?" I'm like, "I'm recording my plate. I'm not really recording you. Like, who are you?" And so pretty much I get told that I ordered too much food and he would have to charge me. And so I say, you know what? I'm a YouTuber. I'm fine. Go ahead and charge me, whatever. Just put on my account. And then he said, "Sir, we can't charge you. You can't order all that food." I'm like, well, wait a minute, which one is it? Like, are you going to charge me? Can you charge me for the food, or what's going on? And so I guess I called his bluff or whatever. And then he eventually said I couldn't actually order the food. But that was just a weird situation. And so the good news is my waiter, and I don't want to get the guy in trouble, my waiter was like, you know what? If you want the food, I can still get the food for you because you look like a good guy and you're going to be helping us out. And I said, you know what? Like, no, what I ordered is fine. Just leave it alone. And so thankfully, because they actually did bring me full-size portions, I had more than enough food. This is my meal. So moral of the story is, cruise lines are cutting down on food, including Royal Caribbean, no matter if you're paying for the specialty restaurant or not. So be aware. Either way, the meal was phenomenal. I enjoyed every single bit of it. It was just a really good meal. Like I said, it was quick as well. I mean, they were coming out like boom, 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 just constantly bringing out trays. So I thoroughly enjoyed my experience outside of that little weird scenario with the manager. Keeping on with the food, so I might as well talk about my meal in the solarium. Now, of course, this is a few hours later, but I did go into the solarium and just have like a nice sit-down meal. Again, this is a variety, so I just want to kind of just go around the ship and just kind of show you all as much as I could without kind of stuffing myself too much. And this was just the perfect night to go. It was a nice, calm night on the seas. I didn't feel like dealing with the MDR or the buffet, so I went to the solarium, and it was really nice. Now, getting back to my solo cruises out there, so a lot of people like to ask me, well, how often do you eat alone? Well, out of 10 cruises, I'll say it's about 50-50. Sometimes in the mood to eat with other people and socialize and stuff like that. Sometimes I have such a busy schedule where I want to eat really quickly and get out of there. I mean, you all know I do a lot on these cruise ships, and I also like to share my meals as well. And I just don't really feel comfortable going all in when someone's staring at me, watching me, or I don't feel comfortable kind of rushing to a show when someone else is eating, taking their time talking. So 50-50 really just depends on the cruise and how I feel. When it comes to this cruise, again, it's going to be about 50-50. You all see it in a bit. Now, tonight's entertainment was a show called Showgirls. Of course, I had the option to use the key, but ironically, the key was actually like far in the back, so I just went ahead and walked to the very front row. Got a great view. The show is standard Royal Caribbean fare. It's one of those Broadway type of shows with like singing and dance and stuff like that. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
To the beautiful lady.
And I almost tripped this chick. So after finishing that show, which I thoroughly enjoyed by the way, I really just wanted to have a me night. I mean, kind of going back to my solo cruises here, you all know what I'm talking about. When you're on a solo cruise, you really don't have to feel forced to do anything. And so that is the one thing that, like, ironically, one of my ex-girlfriends, I'll tell you all right now, her once we broke up, she was so mad at me. She said she wanted me to be alone for the rest of my life and not have any friends and things like that. And just saying all this crazy stuff because she was so mad that I didn't want to be with her anymore. And then, of course, now it's like everything she wanted for me, like I took it and I just shot off with it. I mean, I ended up creating a whole YouTube channel and personality with it. It's crazy how those things work, but it's wild because she's not the only person that said that to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I get those weird type of comments, but I had a couple of people say it to me. A couple of women say it to me in the past. And it's like now they reach out to me, they look at my profile, they send me little messages saying they're sorry and stuff like that. Long story short, this is why my solo traveling has continued for so long, because all that stuff that they wished on me as far as me having a terrible life, everything's not what it seems. And unfortunately, thankfully, I ended up getting the good stick of things. So that was a very long segue into saying that for this particular night, because I didn't have anybody to answer to, I said, you know what? I'm going to sit in this hot tub and I'm going to watch the NFL playoffs right now with some alcohol and just chill the heck out. And that was one of the most relaxing and most enjoyable experiences I've ever had watching football. And I'm not even a huge football fan. So a big cheers to those who have watched my solo journey around the world take place over the past couple of years, and even to those who have started their own solo journey because of my channel. Again, I see you all and cheers to you. And to those who have put us in this predicament, including my exes, this one's for you.
You wanted to break up, now you're calling me up. Just a matter of time, girl, before you wonder what's up. No need to explain, baby, I can see in your face. The real thing is real hard to replace, ain't it? You can try to play dumb, you can try to deny. You can say it's my fault, but you know it's a lie. You the only one that didn't think I was for real. Now I'm gone, tell me how does it feel? You miss me, don't you? You know you don't feel complete without your VBS stones, fly bags and sweets. Got a GSM phone, still hard to reach, cause the signal real low at the beach when you're tanning your knees. Who else gonna tell you bring all your friends? And on a scale of 1 to 5 is a 10 out of 10. Can we get it
The best cruise ever.
We can do it again. Let's go.
Some live for the bill, some kill for the bill. She whine for the bill, grind for the bill.
She used to be the sweetest.
Some steal for the bill if they gotta pay the bill.
She used to be the
Tonight's white clef ain't on, Wizzy on the bill. High school, she was that girl that make me do the hula hoop around the gym.
Welcome back to the gorgeous island of Labadee. Thanks to my amazing balcony. Now, one thing I did not talk about that happened the previous day was one of my excursions got canceled. So I actually had 2 booked. I had the zip line booked, and then I also had a speedboat tour and snorkels booked as well. Something happened with the speedboat and it was down, and the reason why I really can't complain about it is all I did was just pretty much replace it. So I went from being on a speedboat snorkel to basically a regular boat that included drinks and snorkel as well. Now, another reason why I can't complain is, so when I was there rebooking my excursions, I had to talk to a manager because some discounts and stuff were involved. And it was this guy, and me and him are about the same age, and we were just talking, and I was telling him everything I've done, and he was just in shock. Like, it was one of the most pleasing conversations I've ever had with a random stranger. And he was telling me, he was like, look, you obviously, working in this business, I talked to a lot of people. He was like, I've never talked to someone like you that is so confident in what you do and so willing to go out there and just get it. Like, he was just really impressed. And so it was just a really good conversation. It made me feel good. Again, this is about the solo experience, and just hearing something like that from someone that I'm usually swiping my card for, it felt really good to hear that. And I could tell he was being genuine as well. It was just really nice, and we ended up talking for about 45 minutes. But anyway, back to Labadee, Haiti. Oh my god, it felt so good to be back. As you all know, this is one of my favorite private islands ever, and pretty much everything has stayed exactly the same as it was last time I was here. The weather was amazing. It just felt so good to be back. And the crazy part is I'll actually be back at this island once again in December of 2023 on my group cruise, so what do you know? Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you already know how this potentially is going to go once I start going into details, but this is the same day when my cruise actually changed for the better. Let me explain. So I was actually on the pier waiting for my excursion to start, and I was talking to one of my fellow YouTube vloggers. His name is Captain Jason. If you all haven't seen him, his channel's actually grown. So he was just starting when I talked to him, and now his channel's actually bigger than mine. But he does cruise videos, so make sure to check him out. But me and Captain Jason were actually talking, just talking about just stuff in general, YouTube stuff. And so finally it was time for me to head to my actual boat to take us to our excursion. And so when I got to that boat, it was weird. I was just kind of sitting there. I was looking around, taking selfies and stuff like that. And then I heard them speaking French and Creole. So if you all don't know, it's a very similar language. It's nearly identical. And so personally, I took some French in college and I took French in high school. So I know a petite bit of it, but not that much. But enough to just basically to stay alive or have a conversation if someone's about to attack me or kill me. That's pretty much it. And so one thing I learned about Creole was when I worked at Disney. I was an intern at Disney World. There was a lot of Haitians that worked there, and they all spoke Creole. So I learned little gestures here and there, and then my French. I learned enough. And so I saw one of the Haitian guys actually speaking French and Creole to this woman. And I looked over to her. She had all these clothes on, hat and all that stuff. I really couldn't see what she looked like. I was like, whatever, she's not my type. And then finally, when it was time to go ahead and strip down to our swimwear, I looked over to her. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she is my type. Now, as hollow as that sound, I could care less. Y'all go ahead and hit the dislike button and we'll be seeing you. But for the rest of us, I was just like, man, I was kind of shocked. And it was kind of funny because one of the Haitian guys saw me looking, and so he walked over to me and he had said something in Creole. I was like, look, I speak a little bit of French, not that much. So I was like, that's pretty much it. And so he was like, come over here. And he literally introduced us. And I'm just like, what? And so literally that's how things kind of went. And she was cool. And so like I said, I'm not going to show the woman in the video. That's just not what I do here. But that's how things got started, and that's what changed my vacation for this cruise going forward. And oh yeah, we had an excursion. Now, when it comes to the actual excursions, I mean, it was just a simple snorkel excursion. So, I mean, nothing too fancy. We pretty much just followed the tour leader. He just went from point A to point B and back. And it was cool. It was really cool. I mean, what he was doing to make it special was he was like diving down and pulling up creatures and taking them out the water and letting us see them, and then putting them back in their resting places. And so that was pretty cool. And of course, having my friend there as well, just having a good group of people. It was all just a really good time. And the views, oh my God, just the mountains, everything. It was like picture perfect, literally. So yeah, long story short, that excursion was pretty amazing. Plus I made a new friend. I mean, she had a couple of years on me, but other than that, I mean, she was cool, she was down. She's a solo traveler as well. She liked to do activities type of stuff. We had agreed to get dinner and just pretty much hang out for the rest of the day after we got off the island. So yeah, everything worked out. And I honestly just had to laugh to myself because, I mean, the situation was almost identical to what happened on the NCL Breakaway cruise. I mean, pretty much we got paired together, and guy from Jamaica pretty much kind of almost hooked us up. And then when he realized we were still friends after we went to the top of the mountain, he gave me like a handshake and gave me like a bro hug. It was literally almost the same exact thing all over again. So again, y'all, solo travelers find other solo travelers. It's pretty easy. Now, thankfully, I was in a good mood because my next excursion that I had, the zip line, one of the world's longest zip lines, ended up getting canceled. And it had been going the entire day, but of course, when it was time for me to go up to it, it was canceled due to wind. Now, again, like I said, usually I would be upset and this would be a complaint. But one, that's money back in my pocket. Two, like I said, I'll be here on my own hosted group cruise, by the way, back in December of this year. So I'm like, I can just do it around then anyway. So it wasn't a really big deal, but it was a little bit disappointing. But they can't really control the weather. That's a safety thing, and I get it. So what I ended up doing was just pretty much walking around the island. I mean, that island is so big. It's a lot of stuff that I missed the last time I was there. So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and check out the other parts that I missed outside of Hustle Village, because I didn't want to get stampeded by 100 people trying to sell me stuff. So I did not go there. But everywhere else I did go to, and it's a really nice beach. It's a really nice island. Again, it's one of my favorites. So once it finally hit me that I kind of had somebody to hang out with on the cruise ship, I kind of just took it easy while I was on the island. I said, you know what, my free time may not be completely mine for the rest of the cruise now that I agreed to this, but either way, like I said, I just wanted to kind of enjoy myself, and so I did. Now, another thing I forgot about and I didn't realize until I got back on the cruise ship was dinner. And so, like I said, we had agreed to go to dinner together, but I had already planned to go to Playmakers. And so one thing that people may not know about me is because I'm a solo traveler and because I do YouTube videos like this, I plan my cruises down to a T. And I mean, this is before I even get on the cruise ship. I feel by then it's just too late. And so when it comes to dinner, shows, everything, I already have everything already planned out. I know how everything's gonna go. And Playmakers was on this night. And so I pretty much told my friend, I said, hey, if you wanna come to Playmakers, I'll just pay for it. Or I can just basically cancel it out and go to the MDR with you. And so she said, nah, she was tired from the island. She really didn't feel like eating, stuff like that, whatever. So I said, okay, let's just meet up after I finish eating. And so that's what happened. Now, the cool thing was when I actually got the Playmakers, I was eating alone. It was a really good meal. Oh my God, those wings and the fries, everything was amazing. But there was also another solo traveler as well, an older man, and he was talking to me from across the table. And then finally I asked, he was like, hey, do you mind if I join with you? And so he is on the channel. I can't remember your name and I apologize. But if you're watching this video, again, it was nice to meet you. But that was a really good conversation. I had a really good time. Now, after dinner at Playmakers, which was amazing by the way, and you'll definitely see more of it, I did go ahead and decide to meet back up with my friend, and we went to our first headliner show of the cruise. Now, personally, when it comes to headliner shows, for me, I'm not the biggest fan. It's usually some older person singing songs that either are vaguely familiar or just songs I've never even heard of. And it kind of feels like a time waster. And so, I mean, like I said, I wasn't really jumping to joy for this one, but again, I had my friend, she seemed excited, and a lot of people kept talking about this guy. His name is Tony Tillman.
Please welcome to the stage your host, your cruise director, it's Hannah!
Old school, bring chops now. Huh? Oh. Baby.
Y'all, when I say that man brought down the house, oh my goodness, like he was so good. And honestly, if it wasn't for my friend, I was gonna pass on the show, y'all. Like the last time I went to a headliner show on a Quantum class ship, on Quantum of the Seas, the guy called me boy.
Chasing my blues away. I'll be okay, attaboy.
Wait a minute. That old man just called me boy. My God, that old man just don't know. I was so ready to jump up on that stage and beat the brakes off that mug. But anyway, this one was just so much better. I mean, the guy was just funny and he was singing good songs, and he said he was trained by Sammy Davis Jr. and I believe it because he was moved around. It was just a really good show. We had a great time, y'all. So after that show, instead of going out to the bars and the clubs and drinking and all that stuff, I asked my friend, I'm like, hey, you just want to have a chill night? I'm pretty worn out. And she was like, yeah, sure, what you want to do? And so I looked at the itinerary, and they actually had something called virtual indoor fireworks. And so it sounded kind of cheesy. I had never heard anything like that, but it was something new to try. And y'all, it was actually pretty great. Check it out.
If I was your man. Let me be the one to give you everything you want and need. Baby, good love and protection. Make me your selection. Show you the way love's supposed to be. Baby, you should let me love you.
What a day. Folks, I will be flying through these sea days because there's about 4 of them, so I don't want to spend too much time on just one, especially this one. This was a really nice and chill day. So as usual, we start this day off with a nice light breakfast. So we didn't go all in for this day. We just had the free included continental breakfast, which is more than enough. And then of course the views on the balcony as well. Now anyone that's familiar with my channel and familiar with my documentaries, you all know that when it comes to my sea days, I usually keep the same routine. The first sea day is usually getting to know the ship, so walking around like I showed you all on day 2. And then my second sea day, I usually go and do all the activities, so it's like my adrenaline day. Now like I said, I did want to be different on this cruise, not to mention this cruise did have 4 sea days, the most sea days I've ever had on the cruise. So things were a little bit different. This was actually just a chill out day. And the main reason being, my friend wanted to do things a little bit differently. So I said, you know what? I mean, I always do the same routine. Let me try something else. And so she offered that we go to one of the loyalty events. Now, I had never been there before, and I actually just reached diamond on this cruise, ironically, because of the double points from being a solo cruiser and COVID and all that stuff. So I was easily able to go, but I just had no interest in going. And I'm actually happy I did. It was actually really cool. Check it out.
Pinnacle members. So please give it up to Donald and Michelle.
And it was just so nice. I mean, just seeing everybody celebrating cruising together and celebrating Royal Caribbean, the brand, and things like that. I mean, you don't even have to be a diehard Royal Caribbean fan to enjoy that type of event. It was just really nice, and everyone was in such a good mood. I really enjoyed it. Now, being that we went to that event, I thought to myself, like, hey, if we go to the pool deck now, it's going to be packed. If we go to the solarium and hang out there, that's going to be packed. Might as well just go back to the room, just hang out on the balcony, and just kind of enjoy the ocean and just hang out. So that's what we did. And we ended up getting lunch, too. Now, one thing I do want to mention is, when it comes to the food with Royal Caribbean and their room service, and this honestly goes for almost any cruise line I've been on, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, the room service breakfast is always miles ahead of the room service dinner and lunch. That food was considered edible. It wasn't the best, but it was edible. So yeah, we just talked and chilled and watched the sunset. So after the sunset, it was finally time to head back out the room and check out some nightly entertainment. This time around, it was one of the ship's illusionists. Now, before the show even started, you all know I had to get my orange soda, and I was so happy. Now, as far as the show itself, well, let me show you a little bit of it. So yeah, as far as that show goes, I'm just really not sure how to explain it. What's the word? Boring. It was just horrible, y'all. Like, oh my god, we ended up leaving out probably, I think, 15-20 minutes within. This is the one time I truly didn't know what was going on. I just was like, I gotta get out of here. But in all seriousness, there was another reason why we were in a rush to get out of there. And this is why. Yes! Disco on a cruise ship. Yeah, those sound so weird and so crazy, but it's just something about it. Disco on a cruise ship is life, and I was so excited for this party. Now, in all seriousness, they almost had the same identical routine and song from Quantum of the Seas. So I think it's fleet-wide how they do their disco parties now. But either way, it was still amazing. I knew what to expect, so I knew what songs were coming, and I listened to the songs last time I was there, so I knew the songs this time. Y'all, it was an amazing experience. Check it out. Good Lord bless the Cougars.
So slowly, time goes by. So slowly, time goes by. So slowly.
Welcome to Aruba. Now, this was actually the port I was the most excited for, and this is for a couple of reasons. Number one is I had never been here before, and I've heard so many good things about Aruba, I just had to come and see it for myself. And then the second main thing is this was my huge activity day. So anytime I take a cruise, I always have like a couple of days of touring the city, a couple of days of snorkeling, and then I also have this one like adrenaline thrill type rush. And this was that day. Now, before I get into my excursion, I'll go ahead and say it right now. Folks, I ended up loving Aruba. It's one of my favorite ports ever. I loved it so much. I ended up coming back a couple months later. Aruba was amazing. But before I get into the details, one thing I do want to say is when you first get to the terminal in Aruba, if you need Wi-Fi, if you don't have the internet package, this is the best place to go. It's right beside the ship. As soon as you get off the ship, they have this big building and it does have free Wi-Fi. So that's a tip for anyone that's taking this cruise or taking this type of itinerary. You can get free Wi-Fi right here. Now, for this day in Aruba, they did actually have a couple of tours that I wanted to do through Royal Caribbean, but they all ended up getting sold out so fast. And so I actually went and found the same exact tour that they offered by Royal Caribbean through a third-party site. And not only was it about $100 cheaper, but it was about 2 hours longer. So I was extremely excited. But the only thing is, of course, when you do third-party tours, you kind of have to take that risk of potentially not making it back to the ship on time. Now, I will tell you all, when I first basically started the tour, it was me and this other little couple, and we just could not find the tour operator whatsoever. And so we were like walking around, like I was scared. I'm like, no, this is about to be the best excursion of my life and I'm about to miss it. Like I was extremely worried. But thankfully Aruba, the terminal itself is pretty small, and so thankfully we were able to find the people. And then of course with any type of excursion, there's usually a little small bus ride or a boat ride to get you to your destination. This is no different, but this is one of those rare times where I'm just gonna let the excursion speak for itself. Check it out.
If you're gonna save the day, and you're hearing what I say, I feel your touch, your kiss is not enough. And if you believe in me, don't think my love's for free. I won't take nothing less than a deeper love. Let me tell you, I know I need
Oh my god, this is one of the best excursions I've ever done in my life. It really felt like a true adventure. But let me actually go back in time and show you all how the actual excursion starts. So we get to the location where all the UTVs are at, and each couple had their own UTV. Since I was by myself, I had my own vehicle as well. But it was just pretty cool. I mean, pretty much you get your own UTV. They give you a little handkerchief if you need to cover your face. I had my own little face mask, as you all saw. And they pretty much say, hey, follow me. And it was just like an adventure all throughout Aruba. And so, I mean, both parts. Like, Aruba is kind of split up into different islands. And we were just all over the place. And not only that, but I mean, like I said, we had this adventure and we were following this guy. We were on the highway, we were in the dirt trails, we were on mountains. I mean, it was just so much that we were doing, and it was a lot of designated stops as well. And we spent a good amount of time in each and every one of them. I mean, this was about a 6-hour tour, and it was just so much fun, y'all.
Yeah, I'm just like crazy in this thing right now. It's such a good time. It's amazing right now.
Now let me quickly go over some of the stops that we went to. One of the first stops was this rock mine / quarry area. It was pretty cool. And then we also went to 2 different beaches that had volcanic and molten rock as well. Now of course we couldn't swim there because the rocks were so sharp and dangerous, but the views were amazing. And then we stopped on top of this mountain to get just a view of the city and the ocean, and it was just, oh, it was beautiful. Now keep in mind, this entire time we were driving through this, it was literally like monsoons, then it would go to dry heat, and then it would rain again. It was literally, like I said, it was just an adventure. It was just so great. And then we also went to this emu farm as well. Now this place, we actually spent about an hour here, and we had a full tour of the emu farm. We got to feed the emus.
Hesitating a little bit, help them, because the size of the brain is the size of a walnut. You need to be the smallest stone that gets the food in the gizzard. Look at his neck.
They gave us a little snack and free drinks. This was actually really cool. I really enjoyed this portion. And then one of our last stops was an actual beach where we could get out and swim as well. This was almost like a public beach, and you can see like a couple of locals just hanging out and having a good time. Again, this tour was phenomenal, you all. Probably one of the best. This is up there with the helicopter ride in Alaska, just because it really felt like a true adventure. Excursions can mean one or two things to people: just a way to move around and see the city, or for me, an actual adventure, and that's what this felt like. So yes, like I said earlier, I truly do love Aruba. This is one of my favorite ports. This is one of the best days of the cruise in general. It was just so much fun. I really didn't want to leave. But unfortunately, we did have to leave. Now, the good thing was, because I was filled with so much adrenaline from that amazing tour in Aruba, I said, you know what, I want to keep this going. So as soon as I got back to the cruise ship, I reached out to my friend. I said, you know what, we were having an amazing night tonight. Like, we're going bar hopping, we're going club hopping. Let's get it.
This thing right here.
Now, before we went to dinner and did the bar hopping and things like that, I really wanted to see Aruba from the sky because, like I said, I love this island so much. It was such a great time. I was willing to go ahead and check it out again at night, and thankfully they had a free session open, so that's what I did.
Handle it, so you're shaking that thing like who's the ish with the look in your eyes so devilish. You like to dance on the hip hop spots, and you cruise to the cruise like connect the dots. Not just urban, she liked the pop, cause she was living la vida loca. She had dumps like a truck.
So that's just another one of my quick tips for those who are new to Royal Caribbean and this class of ships. And so you can actually find free sessions of things like this, like the North Star, for example, when it's in port. Now, when it's on sea days, that's when it costs money, but when it's in port, it's free. You just gotta make sure you get it as soon as you can. But anyway, after my little North Star adventure over Aruba, the next thing I had planned was to meet back up with my friend and go have dinner in the MDR. Now again, around this time period of my cruise, not the video itself, but my cruise, this is when Royal Caribbean had recently refreshed the menu, and so they kind of changed things in the MDR, and they have like theme nights going on. And so on this particular night, this was actually Mexican night, and outside of the butter chicken, which is usually Indian dish, everything else was Mexican related, and it was actually really good. We both agreed this is one of the best meals that we had inside the MDR on the cruise. And then after having that great meal, it was finally time to bar and club hop. Check it out. Now, even though this cruise ship is not as large as the Oasis class, as you all can see, it still has a good variety of acts and entertainment going around. So, I mean, there was never a night where I'm like, oh, there's nothing to do. Like, as most cruises go, there was always something going on and always something to do. This cruise is no different, and I enjoyed every second of it. Now, just like the disco night, the main thing I was really excited for was this 80s party. But right before the 80s party, they had this crazy, this cover band that everyone loved, and I mean, the place was packed. Look at this. Now, we completely missed that cover band because we were too busy bar hopping and stuff like that. We got there at the very tail end of the performance. But either way, it was pretty cool because a lot of people ended up leaving, so they got us a better view and a better seat inside for the 80s party.
Are you ready for our 80s extravaganza? Make some noise!
Now, kind of like disco music, I was not alive for 80s music, but oh my god, I still love it. I love the style, the neon lights, the sounds. It was such a great time, y'all. My god, what a cruise. Welcome to Curacao. Oh man, so this day started off pretty weird. So as you all know, usually when I get off the cruise ship, I have my GoPro going, I'm just recording and stuff like that. This was no different. This was my first time in Curacao as well, and so I really wanted to record that experience of getting off the cruise ship. Now, you all know once you go through security, you cannot record in that area. And so I wasn't there yet, but I was near the crew area and I was still recording. And there was these two girls that kept staring at me. So I was like, oh man, I'm about to get in trouble. So I tried to stop my camera real fast and they had stopped me. So I'm like, oh God, like I put it away, like leave me alone. That's not what they wanted. So all I hear is, wait a minute, are you a vlogger? And I turn around like, yep, Mr. B be the name. And so it was just kind of fun. We kind of talked about it for a little bit. And then afterwards, they pretty much wanted to be in my video. So they recognized me from my YouTube channel and from my other Royal Caribbean videos. So this is them.
Royal Caribbean, here to tell you have an amazing day.
Now, long story short, I was so surprised about what happened. I didn't really realize who I was talking to until I kind of thought about it. And then I thought about my two videos I recorded from the 80s party and the disco party. Yep, that was her. And good Lord bless whoever works in the HR department at Royal Caribbean. Let's get back to Curacao. Now again, this was my first time coming to Curacao. I had honestly never even really heard of it until I booked this cruise, and so I really didn't know much about it. But I will say this, I mean, just the views just from the ship in general were beautiful. It actually put the views to Aruba to shame, because it just had a lot more going on, at least in this actual port. And then once again, just like in Aruba, I had a nice bus ride to our actual location. And this one was actually pretty cool. Check it out. Now, because I didn't know much about Curacao, and honestly the excursions that were offered from both Royal Caribbean and the third parties weren't really too exciting, I just opted to do another snorkel, but this one was actually snorkeling with turtles. Now, the unfortunate thing is, just like when I was in St. Thomas and I did that snorkeling with turtles excursion, this one, same thing, not a single turtle to be seen. At least in St. Thomas, we saw one little turtle that ran away from us and swam as fast as possible. Here, we didn't see any, and it was just kind of weird because this place was called Turtle Bay, but not a single turtle in sight. It was strange. But I'll be honest, y'all, I cannot complain because the views, the scenery, the water, everything else was picture perfect. Check it out.
will still cut. You cut your teeth on the like of monsters.
And it was so cool because it was similar to what we did in Haiti, where we had like 2 different tour instructors that were basically like ahead of us and behind us, and we were just kind of going from point A to point B and just kind of moving around. And so we basically just kind of did like follow the leader. And so the part I enjoyed about it was, like I said, the water, but how we were like in the deep ocean. So initially when we got down there, as you all can see, the water was nice and blue and crystal. You can see straight to the bottom. But then as we got a little bit further, there was this point where it just went from like the crystal blue to like just almost black, because it was so deep, because that's how far we were, basically like this huge chop off point to the ocean. And so it was just really crazy. I mean, it was very intense. Now, of course, I'm not the best swimmer in the world, and so some people probably get nervous around that. But either way, I was comfortable. It was nice to see all the fishes that were down there. It was just a really cool experience. And of course, like I said, the rocks and all that around, just the scenery in general, it was just, oh my God, it was beautiful. Curacao was amazing, y'all. And y'all, this may seem wild being that it took all the way to day 6, but yep, I met some cougars. Now, I felt kind of bad. I almost had to say I'm kind of taken, because essentially I was. It was kind of weird, but yeah, they're on the ship. We had some good conversations. All around, it was just a really good time. Now, kind of like when it came to Aruba, we were actually in Curacao for a good while as well. My excursion this time was only about 2.5 hours, so I had plenty of time to go, and I had either 2 options. 1, either stay in Curacao and explore the city on my own and do my own city tour, or 2, just go back to the cruise ship. And so what I decided to do was actually go downtown Curacao, and just check out like the town area. And I'm thankful I did, because what I did not know until I was walking around and I heard people was, the king and the queen of the Netherlands, so basically the people that are over at Curacao, they were actually in town. And not only were they in town, but they were actually about to do a public speech in Town Square, right where I was at. Now, I'm not that type of guy to gush over celebrities and royalty and things like that, but that was a cool experience, just to randomly seeing the king and queen in town and the royal family when I'm just walking around Curacao on a cruise. Like, it was just really cool, like a really cool experience. And not only that, but Curacao in general, I mean, the buildings, the colorful buildings were cool. They have this bridge that's made out of pontoon boats that kind of goes back and forth. The only one in the world like it. It's amazing. They have this long, huge, tall bridge that you can kind of see from almost anywhere in the city. That was cool as well. They have this place called Rift Fort, which is like this, almost like a shopping mall plaza area that's made out of an old fortress. That was cool. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, just the entire city in general. Like, I truly enjoyed Curacao. And just like Aruba, I ended up going back a couple months later. And I will say Curacao had the best location for the ship, where I was able to get the best shots and photos of the ship, just because of the way the port was set up. Now, just like I want to give a shout out to the solos that support the channel, I also want to give a shout out to the crew members as well. I mean, not only those 2 chicks that I met when I was walking off the cruise ship, but also the room stewards as well. So this guy right here, Linton, he was so cool. I asked him for a bathrobe. I said, hey, I'm known for having a bathrobe in my videos. Do you mind hooking me up with one? And he did. He was like, no problem. He was like, say no more. 5 minutes later, he brought it in. He took care of my room. He was always making towel animals. I mean, the guy was amazing. These guys work hard. So shout out to the entire crew on Royal Caribbean ship, no matter what your position is. Thank you for what you do. So after changing, resting, showering, all that type of stuff, it was finally time to have dinner in the MDR. And this food was amazing. Check it out.
Ever feel like you can't breathe? Does the water feel too deep? Lie awake 'cause you can't sleep without it.
Now, after eating dinner, I actually had to go back to my room and change one more time, because unfortunately I forgot that tonight was red night. So this is the night where everyone wears red, and they have like a pool party on the pool deck, and then after that they take it to the club and have like a red night in the club as well. And so at the time period when I initially had changed, I didn't put on red clothes, so I had to go back and change. Now, the one thing I did not talk about when it comes to my balcony is, even though it was a great balcony, it was huge, had nice views, Unfortunately, it was like a couple of decks above the public decks. And so, as you all know, I've messed up plenty of times, and this is no different. People can be under the deck and literally look up and see everything in your balcony. And unfortunately, there was a time period I was out there in my bathroom hanging out, and yep, I saw some people looking at me. It happened again. But the funny part is, not only did that happen to me, but there was a time period when I was down there jogging myself, and I looked up just to see, I'm like, well, I want to see where my room's at. And there was a woman that was a room above mine, same thing, and she got mad. I'm just like, that's what you get, Cougars. That's what y'all get for been torturing me for all these cruises. Payback is a... But in all seriousness, there's a reason why I'm speaking about my balcony and the location of it, as you all will see in a bit. So long story short, when I was on the way heading to meet up with my friend for this pool party, I heard one of the codes they had announced over the code speakers. And so if you've ever worked in security or a hospital or anything like that, when you hear those codes, and especially things like code blue, code 0, code alpha, that's usually meaning somebody's in cardiac arrest. It just really depends on which code they want to use. And that's what they said. And so I knew it was something serious. And then next thing you know, I saw people running past me. And then I saw that we were actually heading back to the port. And so the captain came on this announcement and pretty much said, hey, we have a serious situation going on right now. We have to go back to port. This is not going to be, basically, we're not going to stay out at sea. We're going back to port right now because it's an emergency, a medical emergency.
Aruba for medevac. We have a patient that needs treatment beyond what we can offer on board. Safety is our main priority at all times.
Now, being that I used to work at 2 different hospitals, for me, it just kind of put me on alert. And so I'm like, man, I wonder how the crew and how the staff and how the guests are going to act to this. And so I went up to the pool deck, and the party actually was still going on. I was sitting there like, oh my God, these folks are animals. Like, this man, whatever's going on, somebody about to die. And they're over here cha-cha sliding and just having a great old time. The good news is people did eventually get some common sense. The party got shut down and almost turned into like a watch party of people trying to figure out what's going on and what's happening with this cruise. So eventually my friend met up with me and she said, you know what, let's just go down to your balcony. I think you're on the right side of the ship and we can just easily see what's going on if we go to your balcony because it's right there. And sure enough, once we went down there, yes, it was right there. Check it out. Oh, it's okay. So you all will not believe this. So you know I have a balcony, right? Check this out. Check this out. Yep. Long story short, there was an older male solo traveler who was having heart issues. And thanks to the captain's quick and swift actions, he made it.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor, would you?
Good morning, sunshine.
Yeah, you can see I was in a good mood. Now, I do actually want to apologize. So usually when it comes to day 2, when I'm getting to know the ship, I usually point out all the different activities that's on board in that particular day in the video, and then I'll come back and actually do them later on. I did not actually highlight them as much as I usually do, just because 1, I was talking about my solo experience, and 2, I've been on Quantum of the Seas, so I kind of made this video with the assumption that you all have watched that video. So my apologies, let me go back and make things straight. Long story short, this ship is packed with things to do. Let me explain. Better yet, let me just show you. So right here you actually have the C-Plex. So this is a multi-unit complex that can turn into just different courts. So soccer courts, dodgeball courts, volleyball courts, bumper cars, line dancing classes. Every hour they pretty much switch it and have something different going around. I'll show you the things I did here as well. Then we also of course have the Flow Rider. Royal Caribbean is known for this. It's nothing new. Then you also have the Sky Pad. Now this is actually extinct as of this video. They changed it into some different type of experience. Before it was just a standard Sky Pad where you go in there and jump up and down. And then they also have this VR experience. And so this is actually one of my favorite things I've done because it was so unique. Unfortunately you couldn't record when you're inside of it, but this is actually pretty cool as well. And of course they have the bumper cars that's included inside the Skyplex. Then they also have laser tag. So like I said, this Skyplex is just a multi-unit thing. So many different things can happen in here. Then they also have the indoor skydiving. Now again, I've done this on Quantum of the Seas, and I've done this in Tampa, I've done this in Orlando, I've done this so many times, plus I've jumped out of a plane. It's nothing new to me, but again, it may be something new to you. And then of course they have the North Star. So what I showed at nighttime, I definitely went back and did it during the day as well. Now this ship does not have any slides like the Oasis class outside the little kiddie water park, but what it does actually have is multiple pools. And so you have a couple of main pools, and then of course you have your adults only solarium. So that I thoroughly enjoyed, and plus they had hot tubs pretty much lining all the way around the ship as well. But now I think we all know what time it is. Oh my god, this day was so much fun. And ironically, I was actually rolling solo for the majority of it. Outside of breakfast in the evening time, it was just me and Summy. Of course, like I usually do, I was hitting everything and just going crazy. And because I was going so crazy, I was hungry, so I actually had 2 different lunches. I had one lunch in El Loco Fresh, which is like the buffet Mexican style little restaurant. That's included with your ticket, by the way. And then I also went to Playmakers, which has an upcharge as well. But when I went there, it was actually a really good time because, again, the college finals were on TV. So we were watching that. Then I also met some cool people as well. So I had lunch with them. We talked. We kind of watched some people play volleyball. Altogether, it was just a really amazing day. Again, it was nice to meet you all. Now, one thing I forgot to talk about is the key, and I apologize. I've had this thing on 4 different cruises, and I've talked about it in 4 different videos. But essentially what it is a VIP package that you can purchase, and it includes prime time, exclusive time on the different attractions, prime reserved seating at the shows. It includes the premium internet package, and then also includes a welcome aboard lunch and an ending breakfast as well, and Chops Grill. And it has a couple of little things as well, but those are the main factors. The reason why I bring that up is it made this day so much easier because I didn't have to wait in line. And not only that, but there was a couple of times where it was just me, and literally I had it in places to myself. So for example, on these bumper cars here, I literally was allowed to have the whole ring to myself. And then basically because I was kind of bored, I just started inviting people. So people I met on the ship, some of my subscribers. I even invited some of the crew members to actually race with me on do the bumper cars. Check it out.
We don't see any other tickets.
Okay, get it right.
You can, sir.
Come on in. This is me.
Okay.
Oh, y'all, it is just me with the key. Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Now, I don't know what we were thinking doing a head-on crash inside of a bumper car, but y'all, I seriously felt like I was in a real car accident. I had to go lay down after this. It was that bad. Now, this day was also the lobster night day, so of course I met back up with my friend and we got dressed up and stuff like that. And we went to lobster night. Again, it wasn't anything new, but it was still nice and fresh and it was good. Now, this was around that same time period when they changed where it went from unlimited lobsters to only 1 lobster included. I really didn't care. It was also cool as well because the guy came by and he actually cut our lobsters for us and took it out the shell. So that was actually pretty nice of him. After we were done eating, the next thing on the itinerary was checking out one of my most anticipated cruise shows ever, the Effectors. Now, I'll be honest, I actually booked Quantum of the Seas for the main reason of thinking that the Effectors was on that cruise ship, and then once I got on there, I realized, well, it's not. It's actually on Odyssey of the Seas, so I was pretty upset about that, but thankfully, like I said, I was able to check it out this time around, and oh my god. So I was a comic book fan before the MCU came out, and I'm actually kind of getting burnt out from that. But seeing a show like this that actually incorporated comic book with special effects on a cruise ship, it was amazing. So again, if you're going on this cruise ship, if you have some kids, make sure you take them to this show. They're gonna love it. And of course, like usual, I had my orange soda. It made things even better. Now after this, I had my eye on something called the Crazy Quest. And I asked my friend if she wanted to go. She said no, really didn't interest her. So I said, you know what, I'll just check it out. If it's boring, I'll just leave. And I'll tell you all right now, I was not prepared for this show whatsoever.
Ladies, I need 3 bras not being worn. Go! Outside! Outside!
So let me try to explain this thing. First of all, it's adults only, and it's inside the C-Plex. And so the C-Plex is more of a kids area. I mean, adults go there here and there, but it's more of a kids area. So that kind of threw me off. 2, it's audience participation. And so what they basically do is each corner is a different team. So 4 corners, 4 teams. And the whole goal of the game show is basically the cruise director asks for different items to be brought up to her or shown to her, different things done. Different dress styles, whatever it is, she just asks for random stuff. And so we basically have to find it from our side of the team and bring it up to her. Whoever does it first gets the most points, and so on. And so let me just kind of show you all exactly what I mean.
For an adult scavenger hunt, make some noise! Team 2! You need to walk. You need to walk. With 58 points, that means 10 more points than the second one. In first place, drum rolls please. Team number 3.
Y'all, this show was amazing, and oh my god, I happened to stand in the right corner because my corner is full of like Gen Zs and millennials, and we were out to get it, y'all. Like, we were ready to get it. And yes, as you all saw, our team actually won. Like, oh my god, it was so wild. Like, the whole cross-dressing thing, once they did that, I was like, this is out of hand. So basically, she asked for a man to be wearing a pair of women's underwear. And this one dude, I mean, he went all the way out. I mean, his girlfriend was just sitting there. She was so happy. I was like, oh, you better watch him. It was out of control, y'all. God, what a night. Welcome to day 8, the last sea day of the cruise. I'm going to try to keep this one brief. So again, this is just a standard typical sea day. We were all worn out from the cruise 8 days in a row. So we really didn't do much. For breakfast, we actually went down to the main dining room for breakfast. This is my first breakfast I had in there since the welcome on board breakfast. It was really good. One of the chefs actually recommended that we try out his new flavoring that he did on the chicken and waffles. It was amazing, by the way. They also brought out some fresh pressed juices, which I haven't seen in Royal Caribbean, period. So that was amazing as well. And then afterwards, we went to something called the Captain's Corner. Now again, that's not really my cup of tea, but at the same time, this captain literally saved somebody's life. The man was always visible. We used to see him just walking the hallways. Like, he was always around. He was really funny. He was one of the best captains I've ever had. So I definitely had to check this guy out. And even during this little performance, he was funny as well. It was just a really good time.
You could be a politician too, right?
Now, this is another one of those days where I decided to go ahead and do things solo because I just kind of wanted to chill out and just kind of, this is my last official solo cruise, probably for a while, maybe the last time ever, I don't really know. And so I really just want to kind of take it all in. And so I just had like a much needed pool and solarium day. Check it out. And that alone time transferred into my dinner as well. I mean, the main thing is I really just want to kind of record the staff like I usually do, and I just don't feel comfortable doing that when someone else is watching me, like to kind of ask questions and things like that. And so I ate dinner by myself in the MDR, and it was pretty good. And again, the service in the MDR, the staff that we encountered throughout the entire ship, they were all amazing. So once again, thank you, Royal Caribbean staff. You all did a great job on this cruise. Now, around this time period, all I could think about was getting into that dang pool so I can have my nighttime swim and just calling it the best cruise ever. But before I did, when I was walking through the hall, I saw people with headphones on. I'm like, what? And so they actually had two different silent discos going on. They had one inside the main, just the Royal Promenade, and they also had one in the Club 270 as well. So again, it was just kind of unique. It was kind of different. I'm like, I can't believe they're doing that. So I actually went out there for a little bit and just kind of hung out, having little headphones. I wasn't there that long, but it was still a really cool experience. But finally, it was time. So once I sat down in that hot tub, I just kind of laid back and thought to myself, like, wow, this is the best cruise I've ever been on. And even me making this video after the fact, I mean, this cruise was back in February, and I'm making this video in June. I mean, I've been on a 12-night cruise, a group cruise since then. And even with that said, this is still the best cruise I've ever been on. And why is that? Because of the variety. It's like I took the best of both worlds. I got to have my solo experience, but I also got to have that companion experience as well, depending on the time of the day it was. It was just a variety that I just was not expecting, and it literally kept me in a good mood this entire cruise. I didn't have any issues whatsoever. And to get on a more personal level, if you all didn't know, and almost kind of tie this trilogy together of the 3 videos I've recently done on my last 3 cruises, I actually was dealing with some verbal abuse right before this cruise. Or actually, it was around the time when I was on my Virgin Voyages cruise. So I kind of talked about it. It goes a lot deeper than that, and people reaching out to me on Instagram asking me if I was okay. I wasn't. And the only reason why I was okay was for this cruise was I decided to cut that person off a day before I set sail, and I pretty much stopped talking to her right then and there. And so once that ended, I said, you know what, I'm back to being me, and this is all I could ask for, and I'm just thankful to have it. So to answer that question, for those who have been watching me for years, why am I going to stop my solo cruising? Long story short is because I can. I mean, I've done 10 of these things, I've done 10 documentaries. I'm good. I'm good. I mean, I just don't want to become old and bitter and mad at the world because I'm the problem. Like, no, I want to make sure I get myself out there and just kind of do other things, explore other things. That's the point of being Mr. Bucket List. If something bad were to happen again, like what recently just happened to me, I always have solo cruising. I'm a pro at it, but as of right now, I'm ready to try new things. But I do want to emphasize the word new things, because those from the past who keep sending me those messages, I'm not reading them, you're not coming back. Take care.
I'm only human, can't you see? I made a mistake. Please just look me in my face. Tell me everything's okay. 'Cause I got it. Ooh, never be like you.
So I'm not going to bore you all with the details of day 9. It was pretty simple. It was the last day of the cruise, time to get off the ship. Because I was a key guest, of course, I had the little key breakfast that's from Chop's menu, so that was pretty good. Nothing new to me, but still good. And then we were easily able to just walk off the ship, no issues whatsoever. So now I just want to kind of give a thank you to all those who have supported me over the years. I mean, 10 solo cruises, 10 documentaries, it's just wild to think about it. I mean, when I made that first solo cruise documentary, I had no idea how much traction it was going to get. And people still sending me comments to this day saying they're going to try it out. They changed their life and thank you and things like that from that first video. And I made so many more now since. I mean, I've become almost an expert cruiser now. I can tell you all right now, like, I know exactly how cruises are going to go. And I never thought I would get there. And if it wasn't for the support from this channel, I mean, it wouldn't have happened. And so that's the reason why I'm just, like I said, just thankful for everything that's going on. But again, the reason why I'm stopping these solo cruises and these solo documentaries is I just want to try new things. When it comes to the documentaries, I'll be honest, I am burnt out. These things are, first, they're extremely hard to make. I mean, obviously you all see the time and detail it takes. It's about an 80-hour project. I mean, that's just editing and voiceover and stuff like that. Of course, I'm recording when I'm on the cruise myself. And doing all this knowing I'm not going to get paid. None of these documentaries are monetized because of the music, but that's my choice. I do it for the fans, I do it for my channel, and I do it for my own. It just makes me feel good when I do them. But at the same time, not many people work for free, and there's not many YouTubers that will post a video like that or post any video unmonetized. And so, again, I'm just kind of tapped out. But I will say this, I am thankful for those who have heard me over the years who've donated. I've gotten donations from just random people, and it really means the world to me, and they leave me comments. So thank you. I mean, you all are the reasons why I made it to number 10. Number 2 is the rise of shorts and TikTok and stuff like that. It's like, what's the point? I mean, somebody can make a 15-second video that gets 1 million views and they took 2 minutes to make, or I can make a video that's an hour and a half long and it gets 10,000 views over a couple of years. It's just, that's not what the people want anymore as far as the masses. So between just the time and effort, stuff like that, not to mention, I mean, like I said, I do want to try other things when it comes to cruising. So no more solo cruising, but stuff like this.
1, 2, 3. Hey! That's a video, by the way.
That is just a quick snippet from my group cruise I just hosted. And even though my Odyssey of the Seas cruise, this cruise is the best cruise I've ever been on, outside of that, when it comes to second place, that was easily a winner right there because, oh my god, it was so much fun. And that just is a reminder that, yeah, I am ready to do other things. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. I really hope you all enjoyed it. And even though this may be the last of my solo cruise documentaries, this is not the last of Mr. Bucket List. You never know, you might see a group cruise documentary coming soon. I'll see you soon. Peace out.